Hello, and welcome to episode 27 in my High Vibe Habits series. Yes, this podcast has changed names from the Slingshot series, but you're in the right spot. I'm Nithya Karia, here to teach you how to prioritize yourself without the guilt with just 5 simple habits so you can get proactive about your happiness. Because we give more when we have more to give. Your best self lies in your happiest self. This week, I wanted to talk about pressure cooker moments. You know those moments, right? You've been holding it together minute by minute, maybe day after day or month after month even sometimes, until you finally just can't hold it in. Your emotions peak and you release, probably on someone you love. You know, my son is 12 now, but I have a very vivid memory of him being about 2.5 and my daughter was a newborn. And I just made a really poor choice. And I relived that moment over and over and over again in my head. And it just made me feel like I was just not the mother that I wanted to be. And this single moment really just dwarfed and overshadowed anything and everything that I was doing that was going well or right. It's amazing how these low moments, when we reflect on them and judge ourselves by them, really can become defining in our roles, whether that's mother or, in our careers or as a partner, just as who we are and what we think we're capable of. And this is really why I wanted to dive a little bit deeper this week, because I know we all have them. And no matter where we are on our journey, the idea that we are always going to be imperfect, so we're always going to run into some degree of this, even if it's not necessarily a huge explosion, we will have moments of imperfection. So number one, how do we deal with them? What do we do with them? And number two, how do we avoid them or circumvent them or shrink them down, create a molehill instead of a mountain when they do happen? Because what happens is, right, we judge ourselves. We judge ourselves, we replay these things, and we kick in a very familiar guilt cycle. I feel bad about what happened. I feel bad about myself. And I know I want to do better, right? I have this expectation, but I also have the realization, this kind of proof in front of me that says, I didn't live up to that. I didn't meet that standard. Now, every time you make an unaligned decision, that's when your desire, like wanting to be a good mother, a loving partner, or even to just excel at work, when that desire doesn't line up with your action, then we reinforce those damaging I am beliefs that tell me that I'm not enough, maybe. I'm not what I wanted to be. Picture this. If I were to draw a deep wavy line and put a point at the top of the curve, that would represent that pressure cooker moment, okay? An emotional peak. Now, I want you to flip that image upside down. So what was the peak a second ago is now the nadir, the lowest point. This image best describes what's actually happening on the inside. Your peak, or that explosive state, happens when you feel your lowest. That's really low. When you have deprived yourself, when you have pushed yourself, when you have driven yourself to do more, but what you've actually done is driven yourself into the ground. Now, if you're like me, you tend to judge yourself on how you show up in these climactic moments. And it's rarely good, right? It's the first thing my mind movie will replay for me when my head hits the pillow at night. Again, like, that image, even as I am talking to you, I still can so vividly see what happened with my son when he was 2.5 and I took a toy away and I just erased my voice. I did all of these things that are just not like me. But it was because I was unbelievably sleep deprived and really felt unsupported around all of the labor and the emotional labor and the physical labor that went into having 2 kids under 3 and no real support around. But here's the deal. You, like me, will most likely make the same types of choices in those tough moments, because when I am in that survival mode, I am likely to react in the same way because it's exactly what it is, a reaction. It's not a response. So expecting myself to have a high level of patience for my child or empathy for my husband when I'm stretched thin is asking a lot. And it's even, I'll go so far as to say it's unreasonable. It doesn't make sense. Our minds are not primed to access those higher level brain functions that we need to, again, show up as that best self. Like I said earlier, right? Your best self lies in your happiest self. And that's why this happy on purpose, this prioritizing yourself is so valuable to us as givers, as doers, because we're actually more likely to be successful, to meet that expectation of how we want to show up, because we are actually primed for it, we're fueled for it, we're prepared for it. We have access to those best parts of ourselves. So, how do I change how I show up? How do I start to make better, more aligned decisions? I can work on my habits in the in-between moments. And that starts by how I see and take care of myself. Right? Again, there isn't a lot of use out of judging what happens in those explosive moments. What we want to realize is that we can a lot of times avoid those moments. And when we're taking care of ourselves, meeting those needs consistently, because it takes a lot less than we think when we do things with regularity. But the second piece is the understanding that I'm really training myself, creating really more optimal reactions in the in-between moments. So as soon as I finish with that peak, right, I'm either going to go, down, I'm going to go up, and all of that just is something that I have control over. It's something I get to choose for myself in the work that I do. So yes, I'm telling you that meeting your needs is the very foundation of being in control of your actions. Experiencing more happy in your life requires so much less than you think it does. No, you don't have to meditate daily or be in shape to run a marathon. You don't have to prepare every meal from scratch, right? Taking care of your mind and body are important for different stages and different goals. Now, can they contribute to your overall well-being? Absolutely. But is that where you have to start to begin to feel happy, to begin to feel good in your everyday life? Definitely not. Start with the small, doable, and sustainable step. These are the fundamentals of my high vibe habits. You've got to prioritize yourself consistently to shift your habits to constructive behavior. Not just once a week or on the weekend or on a vacation. Daily steps. So if you've got no time, I invite you to start with this step 1. How do I feel right now? Ask yourself this question often. I know it sounds silly, but if you can't find a time in your day, link it. Let it piggyback off something that you do, like every time you go to the bathroom. And you go to the bathroom and you ask yourself, okay, I'm doing this thing. While I'm doing this, let me just ask myself and check in. How am I feeling right now? Right? And so when you identify that feeling and it's not great, do something about it. This simple 2-step, it gets you aware and it reminds you that you matter, right? How you feel matters because it's changing how you show up. You'd be surprised how easy it is to forget this really basic principle, right? We give more when we have more to give. So give this a try. Share with me. I'd love to hear your feedback and see how this is going for you. That's all for this episode. Sending all my love and gratitude. Stay high vibe, my friends.